Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarbo here. Sitting here in my office at the CG Transfer. There, you may hear some background noise here. I have the fan on. Hopefully, it's not too. It is very, very hot today and very moist. And we had a beautiful afternoon shower, which was great because it sort of cooled things off for the moment. And then the sun came out. So then we're back in the sauna. So apologize for the background noise if you can hear it. And the shine on my face, I don't feel like it's even worth putting on any makeup because it would just melt off my. So if you could deal with that, let's look at the week ahead. For the week of August 15th through August 22nd. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm going to share my screen with you. And we're going to do this as a slideshow, so you don't see all the stuff on the side here. Okay, let's get started. So we are looking at week 3 of August 2021, and it continues to be fraught August for us. And there are many reasons for that, and we're going to go over some of those today. So what do I have here for week 3? More adjustments needed. Good news for chiropractors. Realizations of where we are at and what has to change. And Uranus stations retrograde on a world point. Woo, exclamation point. Big deal, folks. Big deal. Okay, so let's take a look at Sunday. So Sunday, August 15th, 2021 is a 2911 vibration. For those of you who keep track of the 2911 or of these vibrations, the 2911 is actually located on the Tree of Life in Baina, the Sephiroth of the Divine Feminine, and it is the Three of Wands, the Three of Wands. So today we have the Sun making an inconjunct to Neptune in Pisces. This is occurring at 23 degrees of Leo for the Sun, 23 degrees of Pisces for Neptune. This requires some mental adjustments. Whenever we have the Sun, whenever we have Neptune touch any of the planets, there can be illusion, delusion, or certainly confusion, okay? And the inconjunct is especially difficult. We deal with a planetary energy such as Neptune. It is so easy to delude ourselves. And so we can have doubts around our own identity, like who are we really? And I myself am having this conundrum as well. I mean, every day I wake up and I wouldn't say I'm doubting myself so much as I'm questioning myself. Who am I? What am I here to do? What's my purpose? The Sun is associated with life purpose. You know, especially in Leo, right? Leo is a powerful position for the Sun. So we have the Sun in Leo, which is very powerful, and Neptune in Pisces, which is very powerful. So it's the planet that is most delineating the Sun, its most powerful position, Leo, and one of its most powerful positions. It's actually also very powerful in Aries, where it's in its exaltation, and then Neptune in its dignity. So we have the Sun and Neptune both in the signs of their dignity, in the sense of missing the mark. And this is a Virgo side inconjunct, so it is more of a mind thing that we're dealing with at this time. And I don't know about you, but I'm out there looking at people and they seem awful confused about things. It's as if what it seems to me is that things are changing in such a profound and deep way and disorienting way that people are trying to apply logic to the illogical. And so I think that people come up with all these phantasmagorical reasons and beliefs, and so that's part of the process of this month. This month, numerologically, an 8, as you sow, so shall you reap. So we are going to reap what we've sown, along with the 5 vibration of change, creating this 13-4 vibration of death and rebirth. So this is a moment of death and rebirth for all of us. We're going through that process. And what I would suggest at this time is to not hold on too tightly to any one identity, any one perspective, anyone. Planting your flag in a place at this time, the more you are invested in your point and only your point of view on whatever issue is, the more likely your life is going to blow up. So this is actually part of a Sun-Neptune synodic cycle that occurs every year. And this year it began on the 10th of March at 21 degrees of Pisces. Incidentally, the 10th of March was an 18-9 vibration, which is the moon card in the tarot and is also associated with Pisces. So this Sun-Neptune conjunction occurred on a vibrational day connected to Pisces, and this, of course, occurred in Pisces because Neptune is in Pisces. 21 degrees of Pisces says, under the watchful kind eye of a Chinese servant, a girl fondles a little white lamb. The key consciousness and its earliest tactile awareness as the wonders. There's a couple of things here that I want to bring out in this symbol. One of them is, as Dane Rudger explains it in his book, 365 degrees in astrological mandala, which is where I get all this information. And if you're interested in that book, it is out of print, but you can go on mindfire. I believe it's mindfire.ca, and it has the whole book online, so you can read it, you can refer to it. That's how I refer usually. I mean, I have the book, but it's easier just to go online and cut and paste and put it here, right? So you too can. Dane Rogers speaks of the Chinese. He speaks of the Chinese servant and the white lamb and the little girl and the idea of whiteness as alluding to or referring to the fact that the Chinese were a previous race, a root race. The Chinese are a previous root race, one of the original root races, right? And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe it initiated in Lemuria. And so we, the white people, are of a latter root race. I believe it's the Atlanteans, and the fact that the Lemurians or the white or the Chinese have something to teach and have something to protect in the next race. So it has to do with, and this might be more confusing, and even it's not really about races. This is not about that, but the energy of those who came before supporting the energy of those who are coming or are here, and then et cetera, et cetera. So there's that illusion here. But this is also, I think, connected to the growth in consciousness of people who live close to the land, or the growth in consciousness that is imbued on the people that live closest to the land because they're connected to Mother Earth. That's how I look at this symbol as well. So that is something to consider. On Monday, August 16th, which actually is not a 2911, it is a, let's see, it's a 20, this is Oh, this might not be a mistake. I cannot do math in my head, so just give me a second here. So we have 8, 16, it's a 24 and 5. Okay, so I would need to make a correction. The 15th is actually a 28-1 vibration. And it is in Hokmah. So this, if we go back, I just want to correct myself here. So you, I should have a, oh, here we go. I should have a place to go back. This number here should be a 28-1, a 28-1, which is associated with the 2 of Wands, not the 3 of Wands, and is associated with Hokmah, the divine masculine. Okay, now we can go on. Now I feel better. August 16th is a 29-11. Again, the 3 of Wands. Venus ingress into Libra. Venus changes signs. Venus has been in Virgo, and she's been very busy rolling up her sleeves, trying to fix everything that's broken, including our relationships. Venus in Virgo can sometimes come across as highly critical. And so you might be finding yourself being a little bit more critical than usual of your relationships. I know I have found that myself. And people being critical of me in my relationships. I've been having issues with, and I'm not going to get personal really, but just, to see that even I, who, looks at the stars, it doesn't mean that it's any easier. I've been having some points of disagreement with my husband, mostly around his health choices, as he's had disagreements around my health choices, which is interesting because Virgo deals with health. And another incident with a friend who was pretty well, anyway, I've seen it in some of my friendships as well. So enough said. But when Venus moves into Libra, we're less critical and a little bit more willing to find middle ground, which, let me tell you guys, we need some middle ground here. We need some middle ground. Sabian symbol for 1 degree of Libra is a collection of perfect specimens of many biological forms. A butterfly displays the beauty of its wings, its body impaled by a fine dart. The immortal archetypical reality that a perfect and dedicated life reveals. The interesting thing about this 1st degree of Libra, and even this symbol of the collection of perfect specimens of butterflies, they're a perfect specimen of butterfly, except for the fact that the butterfly is dead. So while perfection can be an ideal, it is really an actuality, right? When you have the perfect flower on any of your plants, the day comes when that flower is perfect. It opens up beautifully. The smell is coming out, and it is a beautiful moment in time. And then the flower starts to wilt or is no longer perfect. So perfection is a moment in time. And one of the things that can help us through this period is to see the perfection in each moment of time that we have. I feel the perfection of the moment of time that I'm in here talking to you. It's a moment and it goes past, right? So we need to aspire to perfection, perhaps, but not get so caught up in it that we're not moving. It's like, oh, this is perfect, and then what, right? So to find the perfection in each moment is a good way to move, to practice this sort of Venus and Virgo energy. We also have Mercury making inconjunct to Saturn today at 10 degrees of Virgo Aquarius. Mercury in Virgo, Saturn in Aquarius. Here's another example of 2 planets that are in their dignity. Mercury in Virgo is Mercury is the ruling planet of Virgo. Saturn, before they found Uranus, is the ruling planet of Aquarius. So it is the classical ruler of Aquarius. And when you're looking at a chart, very often I like to look at both. Uranus being in the transpersonal energy, sometimes you can't read it the way it comes down in your chart from a more third dimensional perspective. Uranus is more moving into the higher dimensions. But if you look at Saturn in a chart, so if you're looking at Aquarius, somebody has an Aquarius ascendant or Aquarius sun, or their nodes in Aquarius, look to Saturn as well as looking to Uranus. You have to kind of look at both of them. Saturn tends to be the one that has more to do with reality. And then Uranus has more to do with that sparking of the higher mind, right? Or moving into those higher dimensions, which can bring some instability. So the Uranus side brings in some instability. The Saturn side will tend to bring, you can see the Aquarius from a little bit more of a stabilized place. So putting your life in order will require exercising positive judgment as to how to get large projects you envision to manifest. The sheer scope of your goals in life can require more effort than is immediately obvious. Hard work can take its toll on your health. Correct partitioning of big ideas into segments that are achievable, one at a time, and exacting uses of your is a way to move forward while maintaining inner poise and outer health. And so when we look at Mercury in Virgo looks at the details, looks at all of, like, it's like this, and it's like the list, the to-do list. Fix this, fix that, fix this, fix that, fix that. And then Aquarius and Saturn is like, everything is like, there's so much, it's humanity. It's like, how are we gonna save humanity? That's a lot. That's a lot for a little brain. So chunk it down, keep the big picture, and then see what's in front of you and apply. And that's one way that you can move through this energy. But it is going to require, to a certain extent, a need to emotionally detach yourself from what exactly you want to accomplish. You're probably not going to be able to accomplish what you're most emotionally invested in. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. So be aware of that at this time. That's Monday the 16th. Tuesday on the 17th, we have another inconjunct. This is between the Sun and Pluto. This is a waning inconjunct, so it has that Scorpio side energy. Emotional adjustments needed, pressure from society to let go of attachments. So if you have this is, the Sun and Pluto has to do with the ego, the Sun, and Pluto, the soul. And sometimes we have to let go of some very sacred cows that we may have around issues of who we are and how we define ourselves. I am this, I am that, I am this, I am that. Well, yes, you are, but sometimes you have to let that go, right? You have to let that go because there are forces greater than you that are at work here. And the forces greater than you are generally Pluto. Pluto is the sign, is the planet associated with the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpio is where we come face to face with those things that are greater than us. It is where the ego must, or the way we define ourselves, which is what the ego is, right? It's our mental definition of who we are, all wrapped up in our feelings. That we need to be willing to and see what the soul has to say to us in that process. The soul the soul, no matter what we want, really, the soul is in charge. And a lot of what we're experiencing here in the States here, I think, has to do with that, having to surrender to the soul. And of course, we're in the middle of our Pluto return, folks, in the United States. And so find ourselves one way, but there are forces greater than us. And Pluto is also um, a, a planet associated with death um, and rebirth. So, there are certain things, it doesn't matter who we are or who we think we are. There are things out there that are greater than us. And this Sun inconjunct requires us to make those adjustments, to allow ourselves to let go of these sacred cows around our identity in order for us to evolve. This is part of a synodic cycle that began when the Sun conjunct Pluto at 25 degrees of Capricorn on the 14th of January. The 14th of January vibration 20/2 is associated with Pluto. So this is a waking up. It's the in the tarot, it's a judgment card. It is, Gabriel tooting his horn, right? And all these people rising out of the coffins. And the rising out of the coffins is the rising up and realizing that we are greater than just our physical body, that we have a spiritual connection. That being said, we also have to respect the fact that we have a physical body, and we have to make sure we're taking the right courses of action to protect that physical body, because life is a gift. Life is a gift, and it is not worth throwing it out and throwing it away for a belief system or so you can be right. Okay. And that cuts all kinds of ways, folks. Wednesday, August 18th, 2021 is a 31-4 vibration that is associated with the Sephiroth Geburah, the place of instant karma, the Sephiroth associated with Mars, whose symbol happens to be the sword. So August 18th, we have Mercury, Mars at 13 degrees of Virgo. So Mars is our action, Mercury is our mind. So our mind and our actions are one. The Sabian symbol for 13 degrees of Virgo, a powerful statement, overcomes a state of political hysteria. Wow, that sounds about right, don't you think? You can't make this stuff up. I almost said something else, but you can't make this as stuff up. Okay. The focusing of the collective need for order and structural interdependence into a personage who incarnates the answer to this need, word charisma. I do not think that there's a human being out there who could fit this bill. And in a way, it's not really about that. It's about us coming together as a collective. The power of the group, but for the good of all, instead of the power of the group to exclude others. Okay. Thursday, August 19th, 2021, a 32-5 vibration, the vibration of freedom. This is the Six of Wands in the tarot, often called the victory card. It is also the path of life for the United States, and it is also the shadow of the United States. So this is a big deal. This is a big deal. We have the Sun making an opposition to Jupiter at 28 degrees of Leo Aquarius. The Sun in Leo, Jupiter in Aquarius. Of the Sun and Jupiter, the Sun is more powerfully placed because Jupiter, it does not like being in a Saturn ruled sign. The point of awareness of what was seeded on the initial conjunction of January 28th, 2021, which occurred at 10 degrees of Aquarius. So when we look at two planets, the initial conjunction is the seed, and the opposition, which is where we find ourselves now, is what that seed grew into. So let's look at this seed vibration first. 10 degrees of Aquarius, a man who had for a time become the embodiment of a popular ideal is made to realize that as a person, he is not this ideal. So this can be an illumination and kind of a coming down off your righteous throne. the need to deal with human beings as persons rather than screens upon which one projects one's dreams and ideals. This is about seeing human beings for who they are, flawed people. That includes the people that you admire to the detriment of yourself, or not even to the detriment, and your own sense of, who you are. What is it that you are most attached to? What is it that you are most wanting to find needs to be looked at in to a certain extent in the cold, hard reality? The Sabian symbol for 28 degrees of Leo. So this is where the sun is. Many little birds on a limb of a big tree. Perhaps confusing openness to a multiplicity of inspiring potentialities. Opposing the Sabian symbol for 28 degrees of Aquarius, a tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. Knowledge and skill uses its natural surroundings for the satisfaction of vital basic needs. That Saturn that Jupiter at 28 degrees of Aquarius is asking us to make sure that we have what we need. But it's interesting that in one symbol, you have all these little birds sitting on a limb of a big tree. And in the opposite symbol, we have the tree felled. I'm not exactly sure what that means, except for the fact that it started at 10 degrees of Aquarius, and a man who had for a time become the embodiment of a popular ideal. Quite frankly, and I know I've said this before, and you're probably going to say, yeah, you've said this before, but I really think that this is people waking up to a reality that they may not like, but I think more and more people are waking up to it. And I am not going to say any more than that, except that somebody who was on a pedestal may be used for firewood. So, we all make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. So we're all human, folks. So let's look at this Sun-Jupiter synodic cycle. Here we have the Sun and Jupiter here in the actually 5th house. This is for Washington, D.C. So I apologize for that for those of you who don't live in America. And this was the symbol at the time, Jupiter and the Sun. The interesting thing about, oops, sorry guys, I skipped over. The interesting thing about this date, the 28th of January, not only was the Sun and Jupiter together, but Pluto, let me see if I can find my cursor here, this is what we're looking at, but that was also the same day that Pluto and Venus made their conjunction. So it was a real initiating energy on that day, the 28th of January. And here's the Sun opposing. And here's the Sun here at 28 degrees of Leo. And here is Jupiter at 28 degrees of Aquarius. And it's interesting because in the United States chart, Washington, D.C., it is in the 12th house and the 6th house, which are the houses associated with healing, both spiritual healing and actual physical healing. And I do believe that is decimating, certainly in the United States, is here to teach us something that we need to change. Delta means change. We need to change something. What do you need to change? Do you need to change your beliefs? Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius. Do you need to change how you define yourself? The Sun in Leo. How is that working for you? How is that working for you? Now, oppositions are points of awareness. It's like that perfect point with the butterfly, like, oh, what a beautiful butterfly, but it's dead. So this is just a point in time when we have an ability to sort of look at sort of both things here, okay? Also on the 19th, and this is probably the most powerful thing that's happened this week, is the fact that Uranus stations retrograde in Taurus at 15 degrees of Taurus. The Sabian symbol for 15 degrees of Taurus is head covered with a rakish silk hat, muffled against the cold. A man braves a storm. Courage needed to meet the crisis precipitated by social issue. I have to comment on this. There are many politicians out utilizing this pandemic in America to further their political ambitions, and it's costing people their lives. Taurus is the sign of life. 15 degrees is the fixed of the fixed signs are the most fixed within the sign of the fixed signs, and Taurus is the most fixed. Taurus is our physical body, and the fact that Uranus, the awakener, is turning on this degree matters bigly. It says the man with the silk hat has seen some of his ambitious efforts bring him social success, but he learns often nothing feels like success. The storm may be within him, or it may attack his social status. He is ready to face it daringly. This shows a willingness to accept crises and to go through them, and therefore a great character. The soil upon which a higher course of consciousness may develop. This is a symbol which implies a transition to a new level at which the individual who has learned from experience demonstrates a truly mature mind. What is revealed here is character under adverse circumstances. And here we have this occurring in Washington, D.C. This Uranus changing direction occurs, where is it? In the second house. In the second house of our resources. The other thing, besides the pandemic and those who were keeping their sort of perspective based on how this is going to serve their political ambitions, I also have to point out that what's happening in Afghanistan is a tragedy and a travesty. And 20 years of us being in Afghanistan perhaps has seeded some higher ideals for people in Afghanistan and brought a certain American point of view to Afghanistan. And of course, we have the old guard coming back in and wanting to reinstitute the restrictions. Unfortunately, there are many women and children and innocent lives being decimated because of it, and we have to take some responsibility for that. We do. Now, I don't necessarily want to go to war. We have to support. It's just, and that's all I'm going to say about it. So, apologies for those who may be offended by what I said, but it is something that we have to look at. Okay, so let me stop the share here, and you can see week 4. We have that second Aquarius full moon. Let me just take a look at that. Occurs on Sunday, the 22nd. So this, I'm going to include it, even though I start my weeks on a Sunday, because I don't think we can drop the ball here. So Sunday, August 22nd is a 35-8 vibration. That is the 9 of Wands, the 9 of Wands. We have Mars making a trine to Uranus at 15 degrees of Virgo Taurus. Creative self-expression, waxing trine. Nothing gets in the way of change. So nothing's getting in the way of change. So we have this realization around where we stand, and then we have Mars make a trine to Uranus. And this is change that we cannot hold back from. There's nothing holding back this change. This began on the Mars-Uranus conjunction that occurred on January 20th, 2021. At 7 degrees of Taurus, the woman of Samaria at the ancestral well, the meeting of the traditional past and of the creative spirit pointing to the future. This was the day of the inauguration. This was the day of the inauguration. This doesn't mean that Joe Biden is going anywhere, folks. That's not what this means. But it is change that is coming. And the thing with Uranus, anytime with Uranus, we don't really know what that's going to mean. We really don't know what that's going to mean. So Mars in Virgo, trining Uranus in Taurus. If you have anything at 15 degrees of Virgo, Mars is sitting right there. Big changes happening for you. And we also have on the same day, folks, the full moon at 29 degrees of Aquarius. And we can see that this full moon here, which is for Washington, D.C., is in the same houses, 12th house and the 6th house. Here we have Jupiter. So this is the moon and Jupiter in Aquarius in the 6th house. This could be, and with the sun illuminating it, this could be a big surge, guys, in Corona here, and a realization around that. So we will see what happens. So Sabian symbol for 30 degrees of Leo, an unsealed letter. The realization by the individual that all thoughts and messages are inevitably to be shared with all men. You can't hide anything anymore, folks. Nothing can be hidden. The Sabian symbol for the moon at 30 degrees of Aquarius, deeply rooted in the past, a very ancient culture, a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged into the glowing light of a unanimous consciousness is revealed to one who has emerged successfully from his metamorphosis. This is awakening, folks. This is, to a certain extent, ascension. But the ascension doesn't mean we leave our bodies behind. The ascension means that we become in a more ascended state within our physical bodies. And in order to do that, you need to wake up to the fact that there is a grander plan and that the ego is not necessarily in charge here. The ability for the person with an open mind and a deep feeling for self-transcendence to come into, I can't really read this. Hold on one second. My thing is in the way. I have to move it. My little bar from Zoom. For self-transcendence to come into contact with higher forms of existence. This could even be, more exposure to alien life, right? To extraterrestrial. And, extraterrestrial is anything beyond the physical terrestrial environment. We are in a certain, even humans are extraterrestrial. We're here, but we're also in the higher dimensions as well. And the awareness of that is so vital at this time. And of course, we may become aware of this. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. And I believe that is it. Oh no, we have one more thing. On the 22nd, the sun ingresses into Virgo. I'm glad I added the 22nd here and just didn't stop at the 21st. And next week I'll go over this again, so you'll hear it again. In a portrait, the significant features of a man's head are artistically emphasized. This is 1 degree of Virgo. The capacity to picture to oneself clearly the salient features and the overall meaning of any life situation. Mercury, the ruling planet of Virgo, is at 19 degrees of Virgo. 19 degrees of Virgo, a swimming race, the stimulation that comes from group effort towards a spiritual goal. So please, 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 if you get nothing from this reading that I'm doing here, and this little thing that I'm doing for you this week ahead, is to understand that in order to move through this time, we need to work together. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter if you're a masker or a vaxxer or an anti-vaxxer or an anti-masker or a Republican or a Democrat or white or black or yellow or red. None of it matters. We have to move through this time together. The virus is teaching us that we are all in this together. It doesn't care if you wear a mask or if you have a vaccine or if you don't have a vaccine. If we don't learn these lessons and we don't start working together, it's going to make it much more difficult for us. So be aware of that. And if you don't care, it's going to make it much more difficult for other people and the people who are responsible for you when you go to the hospital, that they take care of you, then know that it's going to affect you. Know that it's going to affect you. Okay, so now I'm going to stop this share and we're going to do a card reading. So, all right, let me just pause this for a moment so I can go get my cards because I didn't bring them over with me. Because such a pivotal week and such a pivotal time, I'm calling out the big guns. Yes, we're going to use the Thoth Deck. So I want to make sure I get a nice shuffle with this. So as I'm shuffling, thinking about the week ahead, what is it that we need to be aware of as we move into this very powerful and potent week? This is a week where it's very important, I think, that we hold the space for what's to happen and withholding judgment from it. And I know I might have said things previous in this reading previous that may make you think that, well, I have to have, shouldn't I have should I have an opinion? Should I have not an opinion? It doesn't necessarily matter what your opinion is. You could be right, you could be wrong. It's not about that. It's about holding space. We are going through a profound transformational process, and keeping your feet firmly on the ground and your heart open, your eyes open, staying aware. This is a big deal this week. So let's see what the Thoth Deck has to say. We start with the victory card. The victory card. This is the Six of Wands. Oops, sorry. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. This is the Six of Wands. This is the 32-5 vibration that I talked about. The path of life for America and the shadow of America. And it's associated with, in this deck, see Jupiter up there, Jupiter, and Leo, which is interesting because Jupiter is in the opposite sign of Leo, right? So victory. Crossing this is the Eight of Wands, called swiftness in this deck. This is the information. You see the information coming out in all different directions. All different directions. Who is going to claim victory? Probably everyone. I knew I was right. 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 Right. That Mercury and Sag, which is associated with this card as a crossing card, is don't be so fixated on your own opinions. You have to keep an open mind. And a lot of information is going to come in. But maybe even more important than an open mind is an open heart. The Tower. So we will have a Tower moment this week. And the Tower really is about waking up to your true self waking up to your true self. You are spirit having a human experience. This card is also associated with the solar plexus, energetically on the tree of life. It is the path that connects our feelings with our mind. We need to have a balance of mind and feelings. It can't be all about intuition, and it can't all be about logic. We have to bridge that. And remember that all these facades and all these things we talk about ourselves and all these personas that we take on are all illusion. Who we truly are is spirit, and spirit is here to remind us of that. So the tower can be very disruptive for others, and enlightening, or the tower can be very enlightening. It kind of depends on where you're going to keep your energy. Keep this open. Stay connected here and here, and to a certain extent in your solar plexus, because that's your instincts. You'll know, you know what, I don't feel really good. I'm going to go into this coffee shop and get a cup of coffee. And you get to the door and you're like, you know what, I don't want to go in there. Trust that. Trust that. Trust your instincts as well. Everything has to be, we have to be in a state of awareness this week. We don't have to necessarily be in a state of action as much as awareness. In the past, we have disappointment, sorrow. This is the Five of Cups. This is grief. So much grief, so much loss, so much has been lost. Our whole society is just like, what's the point? We spent 20 years in Afghanistan. Now these people are suffering. What's the point? We spend all this money and stuff on vaccines, and half people don't want to take them. What's the point? I keep going to work and watching people die. What's the point? I keep I keep talking about, whatever it is that you're putting out there. What's the point? That's the past. Strife, the Five of Swords, Wands. I'm sorry, Five of Wands. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of strife. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You can't really sugarcoat this card out there. One of the reasons why you need to be aware and awake on all levels. Aware and awake on all levels. The immediate future. Truce. The Four of Swords. I used to have the Cosmic Tarot, and I gave it to a friend of mine. But in the picture of these four warriors, and they're just sitting around talking, and their swords are sort of to the side. This is really about putting down the swords. This is about rest and relaxation and poise. This is associated with Jupiter. The fours are associated in the tree of life, are associated with Sephiroth Hesed, which is associated with Jupiter, which is what it says up here. And this is Jupiter in Libra. Jupiter in Libra. So finding a balance point. Stop arguing. We have to stop arguing. How it's seen from the outside. Ten of Cups, happiness. Getting our needs met, getting our needs fulfilled. It's interesting that I live in a country that not take advantage of just how special it is, whereas other people are suffering and kind of wish that they were us, and we're just, doing what we're doing in this craziness. I don't know. Domestic situation. Still a lot of delusion and illusion out there, folks. This is not like we wake up one day and everybody's awake and aware. No, this is going to take a lot of effort on our part to hold the space. I saw a little video on Facebook today. I don't go on Facebook much anymore, mostly because there are people that I care about that are so indoctrinated into these crazy conspiracies and different things, and just they're all so angry. And I mean, I was on there being mostly hurt by what was happening during the Trump administration. So I would like put this stuff up. How is this okay? How is this okay? And it was as if they weren't looking at what was happening. And I realized that this wasn't doing me any good. And it wasn't doing my friends any good. It wasn't doing anybody any good. And I separated out from that venue. But today I was just, I guess, to see how everybody was, because I still have friends on there that I care about, even if I don't agree with them. And there was this little video of two cats walking together, and it said that it was a black cat and a gray cat, and they were walking and their tails were entwined. And it said that these two cats never leave each other's side because the black one is blind. And I wrote that this is what we have to do, even if we don't necessarily agree with the person we're walking side by side with. And one of my friends said, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I said, I totally agree with you. However, when they get thirsty enough, we have to be there with a glass of water. We have to remember we're in this together. And it doesn't matter if you believe or you don't believe. It just matters that we're human. And when a human needs help, we need to help them, whether we agree with them or not. And I think that is really the core of that particular little glyph. And it's interesting that that came up. So this is not going to be a miraculous thing where people like suddenly say, I see the light. No, we have to hold the light. We have to be the light. If you're a light worker, you have to be the light, and you have to be a non-judgmental light and an understanding light, because we've all been there. We've all looked at things and said, I don't choose to believe that, and it's cost us. And we've all been in places where we believed in something so much and it's cost us. We need to be there for each other, despite the fact that there are still going to be plenty of people stuck in the delusion. But I dare say that this is, it's the thing that Cash Peters always talks about. And I actually love quoting Cash, and I also love quoting Marianne, as you know. But if you're not on the path of higher intention, you'll be in this murky water, right? You need to have a high intention. And the highest intention is love, folks, is love. Hopes and fears, the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is kind of a justice card, but the Queen of Swords is somebody who's learned from her tragedies, who's learned from the things that she has been through. Now, this card is pretty graphic with the head of the guy there. Somebody's off with his head. This is somebody who is above and is able to see above all of the thing. And that's what we hope. We hope that there's perhaps some clear-minded people. We hope for some justice, right? And the outcome is the Hanged Man. How apropos. This card speaks of the only thing we can really do is stay connected to cosmic consciousness. It's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it. So just stay connected to spirit and see what spirit will reveal to you. What can you change and what can't you change? And what you can change, change and what you can't change, accept. And underneath it all is the sun, rebirth. Rebirth. So suspend judgment, stay connected to spirit, and we will be reborn on the other side of this. Okay, guys. Often I do an oracle card as well, but I think I'm going to leave it at this. I think that was exactly what we needed to see in here. So please be aware and take care. All the senses open, all the senses open. You see a problem, avoid it. Avoid the problems that you see. Be aligned, be in your heart, keep your eyes open, keep your third eye open, keep your ears open. This is the big week, guys. And there is very little you can do to change what's happening except by holding the space and holding the light. Shine your light. The more light that is shown, the more darkness is dispelled. Okay, guys. Much love. This week, my intention is to go visit my mother in Delaware. For those of you who don't know, I was adopted as an infant. My mother, who I've been taking care of for 17 years and is now in a nursing home. At 101, still going relatively strong, Angelina, little angel that she is, actually a little devil that she is, but you know, she's got a Gemini moon, so she's got both things going there. I have a birth mother, and her name is Illuminata, which means light. And I'm going to go visit her neighborhood, Wilmington, Delaware. So I will be on the road this week through these changes. So I intend to keep my eyes and ears open at all times. And many blessings to you all, and much love. And I will do my morning stuff from Delaware. And luckily, my mother has a beautiful garden as well. So you will not be missing out on the pretty flowers. Okay, guys, take care. Much love. I love you guys so much. Namaste.